like all things in life, it's like, oh, there's this fucked up thing, get through it. Once I had 4 tours canceled, I was like, all right, like I gotta figure this out, like I have to pay the bills. And so I started hustling immediately, like just starting to like sell shit, and like, you know, I got on food stamps and things like that. So I mean, I'm not dead, I'm probably not gonna die. You know, and then like just kind of like figuring out like the proper way to navigate and be like socially responsible and not be a douchebag, and also still try to find like ways to avoid depression and whatever like crappy, you know, like, because I mean people like start stressing on things, and like I've already dealt with trying to deal with stress in my life. Like I had alopecia and, you know, like things that were like, which is autoimmune disease, and you know, I dealt with that, and you know, I remember going to a doctor and they're like, you just have to be less stressed, and you're like, oh yeah, real easy to just say that, you know. So I just figured out like, even in this time, like we've had pandemics and not in my lifetime, but like on this planet, like I feel like, you know, we'll probably get through it. Yeah. Why stress? Well, we're gonna get through it, or I'll die. Like what are those 2 outcomes? And you know, that's that. Sometimes I think of like punks, kind of like cockroaches. I mean, cockroaches are usually negative. I consider like the Trump administration cockroaches, you know, but like in the sense that like we'll kind of just like live in like shitty stuff and kind of just like get through it. Well, that's the craziest thing about all of this shit is you never hear no one's talking about like, let's get our immune systems up, let's be healthier. No one's talking about that. The government doesn't even, I mean, look at who's fucking running the government. That dude does not care. So like, for me, it was like, all right, what are the things I can do? Like everyone's getting sick, you know, vitamin C, zinc, like you can take like, there's like this thing called host defense, like this mushroom complex for your immune system, like all these things. Also exercise, like doing yoga, like things are really important. Keep you healthy and able to fight a virus if you are, you know, if you do come in contact with it, which is part of the reason why I think like I might have had it. Like I got ill and I was with people that like I thought was gonna die. I was recording a record and the producer, I was like, dude, we should stop. I thought he was gonna die. It was fucking insane. I swear he had it. There's no way around it, because like the following week was like, oh, there's this new virus and the pandemic. It's weird that people aren't talking about that on a mainstream level. You know, I think like the immune system thing is huge, and it's like, I don't know. I mean, the way food, but mainly meat, is produced is so fucked up. You know, all the hormones and all the shit that's pumped into those animals, and the way it's produced, and the way people consume it. Even like the fact that there's like organic and non-organic seems obscene to me, because I feel like it should be regular and there should be chemical, because like that stuff is important. What you're eating and the shit that's on non-organic food is got to play some sort of effect in the way people are. Maybe it's minute, but it still affects you. It still can increase cancer. It still can help, you know, or cause issues like mental issues, you know, mental instability, emotional stuff. I don't know. I mean, it's insane. But I know when I eat healthy, I feel different. And I think like if people are just eating like garbage and fast food and fucking up their immune systems, then they're not going to be able to fight the virus. The inspiration thing is interesting because I feel like it's been the opposite. So like, as soon as the pandemic happened and tours were getting canceled and stuff, I found myself having less time than I did normally. Like I went into like survival mode and like hustling and like figuring out things. So it's like a lot of time like on the computer trying to sell shit. It's weird because even like last night I was like, you know what, I gotta make time. I have these 2 albums I have to write lyrics to. I'm like, I have to sit down and start getting this stuff done, because like it's been kind of crazy where like it'll be, midnight, and be like, oh my God, I'm exhausted and I didn't get to do the things that I wanted to do. And I am still doing the things that I should do, and still trying to find time to like take my dog to the park or like maybe go walk at the beach for, half an hour or do something to kind of make myself feel human still and like have sort of like, not interactions necessarily, but just be able to like be outside and get vitamin D and like fresh air and stuff. And again, still be socially responsible and stuff. So like, yeah, the inspiration is weird, but then again, it's like I remember sitting down last night and like starting to work on lyrics. And I'm like, geez, this is like easy. There's so much negative stuff to write about. Not that like I get it. Like the music's aggressive and stuff that I work on lyrically. So it would be a negative topic, but there is a positive spin to it, I think. But like the sort of inspiration was just like, there it is. Like, that's not hard. And then I started like questioning myself, like this is almost like cliche. Like what I'm saying in these lyrics seem like, obvious. Like maybe I should like, try to be more artsy or something and like hide it, I don't know. It was weird. For whatever reasons, I'm grateful that this happened. Like I'm able to still work on records and free of other record labels, or like pressure to finish something or do something. So, I've been working on this really strange project called Satanic Planet, and it was kind of just, it was almost done, and we were like, oh, let's get Dave Lombardo to play drums on one of these songs. And so we sent it to him right when like everything kind of started. And so he was like, yeah, let me work on it. And he tracked from where he lives and sent us the files. And he's like, that was great. You want me to do another one? We're like, yeah. And so here we are, like he's on the whole record, And so it was just kind of like, oh, okay, this is a good, like we don't have a deadline and this is good. We can go back and like, we can literally like redo each song, adding this other musician that like is, to me, family and also like very inspiring as a musician and an artist. And so it's like, oh, let's bring that element in here, and it was kind of like a blessing in disguise, but like, which would have been better, like, post, quarantine or quarantine. It's like, well, I mean, we can't like weigh the two. It's just, we got this and we move on and we do our best with what we have. And that's kind of like rooted in like the DIY ethics. Like, it's like looking at like, growing up and like looking at like Gravity Records where it's like, oh yeah, we're going to make record covers out of cardboard and spray paint, and like, that's badass. And now it's like, now you have like corporations like paying a lot of money to do shit like that. Where like back then it was just kind of like, what do I have? Let me use these elements and make something out of nothing, and that, I think it's been instilled in my brain. Even before I started playing music, it was just like, how do I hustle to get to this thing that I can't normally get because of, because of like my class or because of my geographical location or whatever it is, and so it's like, I'm going to use these elements, make something of nothing, and my brain, I'm glad, is constantly trying to think of an alternative way to do something, or also like kind of like doing it like a mental inventory and like seeing what might be able to be repurposed, because a lot of it people look at it as trash. And like, I mean, I think DIY ethics and like a lot of like punk ethics come from that. They come from trash, and I think like we'll find something rad out of that, and then at some point the rest of the world will be like, oh shit, like there's something we can capitalize on, and then they'll ruin it, I mean, so I got into like punk music through skateboarding and like Thrasher magazine, and they put out these like skate rock compilations, and I got into that when I was about 10, so 85, I guess, 1985, and quickly got into the Sex Pistols. That was like my thing when I was a child, and I was really obsessed with the fact that they looked how they looked. I mean, they sounded cool and great, and I mean now as time has music has evolved, they seem like a basic pop band musically, but back then they had like this bite, and I think like looking at them though was really interesting for me because they had they were literally like wearing trash, like their clothes were torn up and stuff. And yeah, it looked cool to me, but it really made a lot of sense. And especially because like, I remember like kind of growing up and being of this certain age where like I would go to school and it was like the cool kids had the new stuff and it's like, damn man, like I got the same old crap. So then it's kind of funny, like fast forward however many years and like, we'll see people like buy t-shirts with holes in them and I'm like, what? I'm like trying not to get holes in my stuff. Like that's so weird to me that like people will pay more for shit that looks fucked up, that's a simple point I think with like the look of it, but also like it's like this sort of like utilitarian kind of mindset, like even kind of just like being like maybe being a minimalist, but also just like saying like, okay, like these are the things that I have on me, and this is like what I need for like life, and that could be like this is what I need for battle or whatever you want to call it, the society, like I don't know. I mean, this sounds kind of weird and like crude, but it's like parts of me like have been trained to think like, okay, like if I'm out and I get chased by cops, can I actually get away with like, the shoes I'm wearing, or like, do I have like this thing to have to carry, And so I think like that, like, can I just survive this like life's war, on a daily basis if it was to happen. And so that part of like survival, I guess, mindset is just ingrained in my head. And I think it does come from punk, especially too, like when punk first started, it was always like this like anti-Reagan, like anti-nuclear war sort of like vibe or mindset or whatever. And so it kind of had this like post-apocalyptic feel to it, and I don't know, I mean, a lot of things I think tie into like the world we live in, into art and stuff. So like for me, I'm drawing influence from like anything from like being like a little kid and being obsessed with the movie Road Warrior, or like Star Wars, and both things kind of like seem obtainable for human life on this planet or this galaxy or whatever. So like I kind of look at it like that. There's these things that like artistically influenced me without me even realizing it, but they're also like they also hold like some sort of relevance, and I guess somehow tie into like some sort of existentialist thought process or thoughts of like existing as a living creature. So it's just, I think like I'll just take in all these things. And so punk is like the sort of like the cockroach of the music industry, it's like the shit that people threw away, and we're like, well, fuck you, we're gonna make this thing, and and again, like I think like even now, like in 2020, I think people are trying to not reinvent, but like reevaluate like what those root like the root beliefs are in that thing known as punk, and it doesn't have to be punk rock. It just has to be like life, if that makes sense. So like, I do cringe at, the using the term punk rock. I think that punk is bigger. It's broader, because I think of things like my mom. I think my mom is a punk. She won't agree with me, but she is. I mean, she's like pretty badass, and like probably never would wear like a black leather jacket and go like mosh or whatever, but she's like got it in her mind, like this sort of like that like sort of survival technique, and it seems like something like where because I don't know, I mean, it could tie into all kinds of things, different forms of like class or creed or whatever. So I think like that's just something that's been always there. And I think over the years I've been able to kind of like realize it and maybe hone in on it and think about it and like let it like kind of manifest in my own mind. Capitalism is like really interesting in this time right now because I see like I mean I can only be hopeful that like people once life switches back out of I guess post quarantine, if people will still go shop at Walmart or if they'll go shop at like a local owned store, and I mean a lot of it comes down again to like capitalism, and if they could save like 45 cents on this product, they'll go get it at a Walmart. Or like maybe it's me being privileged, but like I'll spend more money to not shop at a place like that, and especially on tour or something. I think it's really, for me, that is like an element of punk, like where you spend your money and how you spend your money. That's more important than I think voting even. It's like you're giving these corporations money that like are getting backed by these CEOs that are destroying our planet, destroying communities, destroying people's lives. It's a pretty political slant, but it dives into like every facet of human life. Capitalism. I mean, capitalism is the reason why we're hit so hard by this pandemic, because we have this administration that had their head up their asses and they don't give a fuck about a lot of people. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, I think that's a pretty like broad thing, because I think musicians are dealing with it in every way possible, and depending on what kind of art you create. Like for me, I mean, I feel like a bit stifled because like the stuff I work on like really does depend on like a live drummer, and one of my bandmates lives like a mile away, but I haven't seen him since this happened, and I don't fault him because he's got a family and 2 children, and I want him to stay safe, and where like I'm just like, dude, let's jam, like I'm fine, and so I'll go work with Luke Henshaw at his recording studio, and we've talked about how like people might be critical of us being together frequently and like working on a record, but like there's a lot more to it, like for instance, like him and I both think we maybe already been exposed. Neither of us have been tested because it's kind of hard to get tested, but I think we both like had been pretty ill in January and February, and feel like, well, maybe we already had it. And also like him and I both are also like physically active and fit and take care of our immune systems and things like that. There's that aspect. We're also, I play with other musicians where they're like, don't come near me, like I'm afraid, or I see other musicians where I'm like, oh dude, you guys are jamming, like that's weird, like you guys are all jamming in that rehearsal space, like lucky. But then I think like, oof, I mean, you have to be socially responsible, and maybe those people all think they're fine, but like it's like an example, like I guess you're portraying on your social media that you're like just hanging out with all these other people playing. I don't know, it's kind of weird. So I've been like very cautious about like what I do, how I share what I'm doing, and try to like not piss people off, and also like not be an asshole, because I don't want to spread a virus. I don't want to be a carrier, even though if I have the antibody, I don't want to, I don't want to get my bandmates sick. I don't want to get their family sick. So I don't know, it's a trip. Before this, I was already struggling with like the fact that people wouldn't go to live shows. They would watch it on YouTube, and it's like, I get it, but there's this sharing of energy that happens. There's something that happens from a live performance that I think you can't experience without being there. But also like, people have hit me up like, you should do like a live Zoom of the Locust, and I'm like, that just sounds stupid. Like I don't know. It's not the same thing, because for me, and also going back to like punk and like punk ethics, it's like there isn't like the band and the audience. So it's not like we're on this big festival stage, like, you know, however many feet away from, it's like, no, we're in your face, you are in our face. And this is like, we are this like one entity sharing this moment in time, you know, and that's something that I think you can't replicate that. You can't replicate it through a Zoom meeting or some kind of like, you know, Instagram live. It just seems like a cheap version of the real thing. So, you know, like I do wonder about like playing live again. Like, I don't know. To me, I think like maybe we'll change as a society, but I also think that like people need that sort of release, that sort of interaction, because I feel that like music is one of the only forms of communication that goes beyond language and beyond gender and beyond race, beyond whatever. It's the only way where you communicate. I mean, it has words in it, but, or without words, where you could communicate with energy and say in-depth, immense things to other human beings. And yeah, you can get that by listening to a recording or something. But to be there and experience it with them is something something else that's like, I feel like, I hope that it's something that has to exist for people. Because I think if you let's say the quarantine is released, like, and people decide like, oh, I'm not going out, you know, like, I think it'll start to mess with us. I mean, we're already noticing that, like, since the introduction of the internet and social media, and people not having like the same sort of social skills or be able to have like, you know, an element of empathy in their dialogue with other human beings. Like, that's something that I think we can fault the internet for, or social media for. And so those things, I think, will trickle down into the way that people consume, I don't want to say consume, but absorb art, you know, be it music or whatever kind of live interaction, you know. I mean, I think it's something that really should exist for the sake of people's sanity. Bill Maher, you know, Real Time, his show, you know, his show is decent and it's pretty good, but like watching it now where he's like doing his monologue without a live audience, they do a good job of like splicing in like stuff, joking, you know, it's like very campy, but then like it just seems awkward, you know. There's like this level of like disconnect. And then also like his interactions when he's interviewing someone, you know, like two people, you know, FaceTiming, just seems awkward to me. And like, yeah, I'm watching it, I'm not there, but that connection isn't happening for me to view that. And I see it as like something that just seems like a bit foreign, you know. And maybe it'll become the norm, but even if it does become the norm, I think still people will like look at like real human interaction as something that's like more legitimate or more righteous or more I don't know, just somehow like it's more special. I don't want to sound like a dick, but I remember like growing up in high school, I remember kept saying this to people, other students that would like complain about things in their lives, like, and I think they were probably relevant, I guess. I don't really recall what they were, but I remember kind of thinking like, man, it could be worse. Like, whatever you're complaining about, it could be worse. And it's fucked up to say that, like, oh shit, your parents died, like, it could be worse. But like, you know, my dad did die, and it could have been worse. And it was pretty fucking bad, but it was like, it could have been worse. So there's that aspect where like, I think, again, like, it sucks right now, and it's not rad for a lot of people, but it could be worse. kind of like the negativity that you see on social media about like the Trump administration. Like, it's the biggest piece of shit on this planet. It could be worse, and it probably will be, but those negative things that have happened to us pushed us to do something that we never would have thought of. You know, it's like, not to tie it back into politics, but I kind of get a little irritated, like seeing how like people would say like, oh, Obama, I miss Obama. And it's like, that dude is like responsible for the most deportations, the most illegal drone strikes, but you don't have people that are Democrats or people, you know, that are progressive, like tripping out on that shit. Where we should have been tripping out on that shit because people were dying. They shouldn't. People were being deported or their families are being fucking destroyed and they shouldn't. So like, we're facing a pandemic that also is racist. You know, people of color are being affected way more than others, and I think that's something to consider. So like, fuck, I don't know. Yeah, it could be worse. It's just like a dick saying that, but I really do feel like it could be worse, and I do think that like we will get through this, and when we do, we'll be tougher and smarter and probably more creative, because you're forced to think, how the fuck am I going to survive this? I got to do these things that I never would have thought about doing. Like, yeah, you can sit at home and watch all the shit on Netflix, or you could do something creative, set the grounds for when we are past this, for something that can, I don't know, benefit yourself, benefit humanity, maybe affect people in need. I don't know. Like, there's a lot more to do than like binge watching garbage, you know? There's nothing wrong with that, but like, maybe at some point people should try to like look at that and think like, what can I do in this time to get through it? Because otherwise you give up, and then it's like, well, there's that. Like, people do give up, and then there's that. But most of us can't give up. I mean, I can't give up. I don't know. I'm grateful for like things like my mom. I mean, she's like 70. She just got fired from her job at a hotel she worked at. You know, and she's just like, oh, fuck it, whatever. Like, I'll figure this out. You know, yeah, she stresses about a bunch of shit that she doesn't need to be, but like, it's pretty inspiring to like hear someone be like, yeah, whatever. Like, this is fucked up. The people that are going to survive the economic collapse are like the capitalists, you know, and these fucking corporations. But it's everybody else that realizes, like, I mean, I'm hoping that people kind of figure out like, fuck, maybe I shouldn't be shopping at Walmart, you know? Maybe Amazon isn't the best thing to be buying shit from. And so, I mean, but I don't fault people. If they need to save a couple bucks, I get it. I mean, I do. I'm glad that I'm stupid enough to spend an extra $1 to not shop at those places. But not everybody has that luxury, you know. I mean, I don't have 2.5 kids. I can't. I don't have to worry about like that extra buck. You know, I'm like, I'd rather just not have these corporations get my money. Little things that don't have anything to do with this, but like I see everybody walking their dogs now, and I'm like, fucking dogs made it. Like, yes, you know. And like, I think my dog is so cool. That guy teaches me so much. The guy has telepathy and stuff. Like, it's so wild. And so like, I think like, okay, maybe people will be more empathetic, not necessarily to their other fellow human beings, but to like the planet. You know, I mean, even like when, you know, people weren't driving, it's like finally Mother Nature can breathe for a week. Like, yeah, it sucks that a bunch of people are having like financial hardships, but fuck, the planet is what makes everything function. And she got a chance to breathe. I do hope that humanity changes from this. Like, will it? Probably not. I think people are like kind of complacent and kind of in it for themselves, at least here in America. But maybe it'll create, you know, maybe out of this situation, something will be birthed, or someone will be birthed that like will change the planet, you know? I mean, we can only hope. So, but I mean, yeah, and I don't know, you can find me on in the grid, you know, in the matrix. I'm there. So if people want to research what I've done, it's there. I wish I could not be online. It would be awesome. But that's another thing too, is like, yeah, I mean, fuck, I'm on Facebook. And Instagram. Those are terrible things, I think. But it's just like using Gmail, I guess. Google's pretty fucked. So I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know what'll come out of this, but like, I feel like maybe the best is to just be aware of things and try your best, and maybe not be too hard on yourself, and just just do the best you can, and at some point maybe we'll be okay.